And as we just shared in that package there, taxi associations and e-hailing drivers met to address those problems. And some of those problems pivot around competitions for customers and for routes. You would have seen in the last few days e-hailing drivers taking to the streets in protest against the torching of those vehicles in Soweto following attacks on their drivers. Police say they're also investigating the shooting of a driver and the torching of three vehicles and damage to several others. So let's get the latest now on what these talks have yielded. And Vhatuka Mbelengwa is the chairperson of the Private Public Transport Association, which covers e-hailing drivers, as well as Phala, the spokesperson for SANTACO. Good evening to the both of you. And Rebecca, maybe I'll just start with you. We heard just a snippet of that conversation that Kenny Kunene shared about where and what is fueling, where this violence is coming from and what's fueling it. What are your thoughts as one of the major taxi association industry bodies in the country?
Man, good evening to you as well as to your viewers. Look, we feel vindicated that there seems to be a sense of understanding and logic that's prevailing with regards to ourselves and the other stakeholders that we've been talking to regarding what is understood to have happened. And we say this with apprehension because we fully acknowledge that what we're discussing here is a subject of police investigations. And so we want to allow police also to do their investigations so that at the end of the day, we can get an understanding of who is suspected to be behind these acts. But the bottom line that you start to derive from the discussions, particularly that took place today, is that it's unfortunate that publicly it's deemed as though, especially us as the taxi industry, that we are behind these acts. But you start to get a sense that those operating in the e-hailing sector are appreciating the reality that there's been an element of criminality that's infiltrated their operation and that some people have deviated from what has been understood to be their modus operandi. So that gives us some sense of comfort, and we'd really hope that members of the public, one, really find our apology that they've had to be at the receiving end of this, but they also start to get an understanding that the problem, it would seem, is much bigger. And the understanding that everybody should also have is that we are incredibly cordial with those that are operating in all other forms of public transport, though we wish we had the support of proper legislation in place to see to it that there is an understanding throughout.
This call for proper legislation is not a new one, Rebecca. We hear this constantly, and one wonders what it's going to take to actually get that put down in black and white, agreed upon by all the parties. But Vhatuka, I want to come to you. This is a situation that is dangerous for everyone. It's unsafe for the drivers. It's certainly unsafe for commuters. When you hear Rebecca there speak and say that they feel vindicated as a taxi association and that there seems to be a criminal element that has crept in, do you agree with that statement?
Yes, good evening, Iman, and to you and your viewers. Thank you for having me. I do agree with that statement. I think it's too easy for us to continually try and find blame in and amongst each other, where at the core of it is a legislative matter. We do need a framework of governance. We do need regulation, so we are able to define each operation and the scope and limits within it should operate. Once this is done, it therefore becomes easier for us to identify illegal operators who are coming in with subpar operational tactics that undermine the industry. But it must be stated that, at the core of it is a matter of governance, and we do need government to step in and govern.
I just want to confirm something with you, Rebecca. Would you say that taxis, and SANTACO represents meter taxis as well, you're at peace with the e-hailing drivers? There's no, because historically we've seen, places, for example, outside the Gautrain in Sandton, reports of meter taxis clashing with the e-hailing drivers. When it comes to your association and those that you represent, are you at peace that there's enough space for yourselves and for the e-hailing drivers to coexist?
Iman, I want to first acknowledge that when e-hailing started operating, we didn't understand, and perhaps that would explain the apprehension that resulted in unfortunate violence that was quite sporadic at the time. We appreciate the reality that times are changing. The public transport sector has to be integrated. To answer your question, we do not have any problem with them. We respect cordiality amongst each other, and we believe that the pie is big enough for all of us.
So let's talk about today then and going forward, and we'll circle back to the need for proper regulation and some of the issues around the routes and the competition for customers. But if we talk about what the resolutions were today, Vhatuka, and that's in terms of where and where not e-hailing drivers, can travel to pick up their customers or their clients. You agree with that? And what else was said about this?
Look, I think essentially the commitment and the committee established has a mandate to ensure that there is continuation in communication and ensuring that we educate ourselves in and amongst ourselves in the respective communities in which we operate. We are not in denial that tensions may continue to arise, but we are believing that with a regulatory framework, we are there able to address and hold the right people to account. Now, in this circumstance, where that doesn't exist, and therefore there are no proper definitions, or there isn't a defined relationship with e-hailing within the proper context of public transportation, although it has become an important element of public transportation, and it must continue to fall within the integrated eco-mix within public transportation, we must therefore ensure that there is regulation governing that ecosystem. Tensions will continue to arise, but I think we are much clearer in understanding that we are not each other's enemy, and what we really need is to address how technology will be integrated so organizations like Uber and Bolt can't continually at will undermine the public transportation sector.
I'm just hearing nothing but harmony, which is interesting, and it's also really encouraging. What does this harmony that I'm hearing mean for your customers, for those who do use the e-hailing services? Are they safe tonight and in the days to come to go on and continue to use those services? Vhatuka?
Do you want to answer the question?
Okay, I think. Look, Iman, it's not a perfect picture, really. We can't be in denial about that. But the reality is we can't continually try find a victim in and amongst ourselves. We understand. I'm here speaking on behalf of the e-hailing sector, but the tech companies are not held to account by anybody, and they are at the core of why many disputes are arising. So I would like to say, yes, commuters are safe, but ultimately e-hailing as an industry, because it's not regulated, has elements which are not safe. So let's not mislead the public. We must always exercise caution at all times.
When you say elements that are not safe, what are you talking about specifically?
Okay, well, you look at e-hailing, right? Vetting, for example, is one of those concerning things. The areas in which we operate in, each area has a sort of dynamics and concerns and structures that require us to engage with and establish operational processes, which we're seeing happening in Soweto now. We are engaging with malls, we're engaging with local taxi operators to say, look, let's find each other within this environment. So there may be circumstances that give way to other eruptions in other areas, and we are not able to predetermine or predict what may or may not come. We will intervene as best we can when we have to. But ultimately, in establishing these sort of committees, in establishing a working relationship with Santaco, in establishing ongoing communication with Rebecca and myself and other key holders, is to say, look, let's get to a point whereby we are proactive in deploying solutions and not reactive.
Rebecca, let me put the final question to you, and again, to the theme of cooperation and collaboration potentially, which is really interesting and heartening to hear. When it comes to these attacks, and we can't deny that they have happened, they've been, there's been very serious violence, cars have been burned, somebody's been shot, police are investigating, charges of a case of attempted murder. When you see this happening to, these drivers, is there a sense that, the Taxi Association, yourselves, your representatives, could even, band together with them to help, to protect and to defend, given, as you say, there's possibly other external criminal elements that are trying to take advantage of the situation?
Consequence management is at the very core of how we are responding to these unfortunate incidents, Iman. And I did say to you, even when we started, that we fully support the work that law enforcement does. And that's why we're not going to come here and sound like we're promoting violence. We do not want it. We don't condone it. As soon as, and it is a continued process, as soon as we establish that some of our members have been found to have committed these crimes, without a doubt, through our taxi associations, they will immediately be removed, because in the interest of our customers, we cannot, at a time in a country where there's so many high stakes of crime, be hoarding people who also perpetuate ills in society.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for talking to us tonight.